With inflation, raising your prices has never been more important than it is now for your professional service firm. Many of us know this, but we still struggle to do it. And that is why I have an expert from the managed service provider space with me today. He successfully implemented everything he's going to share with us in his own business. So why not learn from his experience? Hi, I am Tim Fitzpatrick with Rialto Marketing, where we believe you must remove your revenue roadblocks to accelerate growth, and marketing shouldn't be difficult. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I am super excited to have with me Erick Simpson. He's an MSP expert, influencer, and thought leader. Erick, welcome, and thanks for taking the time to be with me today.
Thanks for having me on, Tim. I look forward to today's session. It's something that every entrepreneur and business owner should be paying strict attention to.
Yes. And I cannot wait to dig into this because I think a lot of us struggle with this. And you've got some great stuff to share with us today. So before we do that, I want to jump in and ask you some rapid fire questions. Are you ready to rock and roll here?
Hit me, Tim.
Okay. When you're not working, how do you like to spend your time?
I like to restore old cars. Me and my son, we find cars here and there, and then we bring them in and we bring them back to their old glory.
And then do you keep them? Do you sell them? What do you do with them?
I like driving cars, so I will keep them. We're not building garage queens, Tim. We build cars that we like, that have some character to them, and we're going to keep them. We're not flippers.
Yeah. What's your hidden talent?
Gosh, I think my hidden talent is listening. I'm a great listener. I think that's part of what, success, an ingredient of success. If you're working with clients and things like that, you've got to learn to listen. And, that's hard for someone that, was trained as an engineer. We don't like to listen typically, but I come from the IT space back in the day. And I think evolving as an entrepreneur, learning to listen to clients, I think is something that, is one of my ingredients.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
The best piece of advice I've ever been given was by a fellow entrepreneur when I was building my IT business. And the piece of advice was become friends with the word no. Learn to say no. No is the one most important word, he said, that when you learn to use it effectively, will get you past business growth bottlenecks. And how right he was. When I started saying no to clients because they didn't fit my ideal client profile, which I know we're going to talk about today, it solved so many problems for us. And it allowed us to focus on working with the clients that we wanted to work with, the clients that were growing, the clients that, saw us as their expert and trusted us to build their business.
I love that. Another great quote that has always stuck with me was when you say yes, just you need to make sure you understand what you're saying no to. Mm-hmm. So kind of a different way to think about that. But what's one thing about you that surprises people?
The one thing that surprises people about me is that I'm basically an introvert, right? So I still have that inner engineer in me. It's difficult for me to engage and speak and talk to people and be on all the time. And what I'm doing when I do that is I'm adapting my behavior, right? So those of us that follow, behavioral profiling or DISC or things like that, know that, folks that are kind of extroverts or folks that are in sales or customer service are very animated and talk with their hands like I'm doing right now. I am the opposite. So on a scale of 0 to 100 that measures that, in DISC, I'm a 7. So I'm adapting my behavior, and I speak a lot on webinars, and I speak live at events and conferences, and I engage with clients. But, subconsciously, when I'm done with that, I've got to recharge. It takes me a long time to recharge. So that's kind of interesting to people. They think, wow, that's total, you're adapting completely opposite to what your natural behavior and comfort zone is. That's the kind of thing that we have to do as business owners and entrepreneurs to be successful, is to grow outside of our comfort zone and adapt.
Yeah. What does success mean to you?
Success means having the time that I like to have with my family and friends and enjoying everything other than, working to support that lifestyle. I think success at a certain point in time, I mean, that's one thing that we don't have a lot of and we can't get back is time. So I'm enjoying, the time I'm spending now with family and friends at this stage in my career.
Where's your happy place?
Mm. So during COVID, during the lockdown, we all went through this, and I'm a big sci-fi nerd. I'm a big movie fan. I love going to movies. I love seeing movies in IMAX and Dolby Atmos and all that. And during COVID, I kind of built, I'm going to air quote this, poor man's home theater here in
Yeah.
the house. So the happy place now is, when I'm, trying to recharge myself, I just, go into my little home theater there and just like watch something that has great sound and, great story and great special effects. That's kind of, my escape hatch.
I love it. So I don't know if you know this about me, but the first business I was a partner in was a wholesale distribution company, and we sold home theater equipment. Yeah, there are some seriously cool home theaters,
Oh
and
boy. Yeah. Yeah.
once
I mean, we
once
could
you
talk
have
tech on home theater.
yeah, once you have sat in one, man, it's hard to go back.
So you'll
Um,
recognize when I say I built a 7.2.4 setup with Dolby
yeah,
Atmos, Dolby Vision in a room that's like 10 by 10. It's
yeah.
insane.
Yeah, that's a lot of speakers for a room that size.
Hmm. Yeah, but they sound
um,
fantastic.
what qualities do you value in the people you spend time with?
I like folks that can be vulnerable and low drama and appreciate the moment that we're in. Right. I like folks that are genuine and are interesting. And like I say, just let's experience the moment and not get too caught up in every little thing that might be wrong in the scenario. I mean, you've been to dinner or events with folks, and the folks that are simply just complaining about every little tiny thing. It kind of spoils the atmosphere, it spoils the mood, right? And kind of goes back to what I said before. What I look for is just kind of harmony, having a, and experiencing the time we have left with our friends and family and whatever we're doing. So you won't find me complaining too much if my order is a little bit off when I order a meal in a restaurant and causing a big commotion.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where, hey, that's life. People are people. And, it's just a different experience. And when you kind of let go and kind of be connected in the moment with the person or people you're with.
Eric, tell us a little bit more about what you're doing now. I mean, you owned an MSP, you sold it. You've shifted gears a little bit. How are you helping folks today?
Yeah, so I built and sold one of the first MSPs in the industry back in the early 2000s. Then I launched MSP University, where I worked to train about 30,000 IT providers all over the world over the next 8 or 9 years or so. We were doing boot camps and workshops, live events. We're doing webinars. Today, I consult and coach with IT business owners to help them improve their operational efficiencies, marketing and sales outcomes, and performance, and grow the value of their businesses. And I also work a lot with vendors, helping them build great channel programs and help recruit and enable their partners to succeed and go to market together as a successful team.
Awesome. Well, let's dig into raising our rates and boosting profitability, right?
Let's go.
So, I know it is all too common for professional service firms to have existing clients that aren't in alignment with current pricing. How does this happen in the first place?
Well, I think one way that it happens, Tim, is when we first open our doors, and I know that your listeners, probably and viewers are probably have probably built their businesses, and at some point remember when we would take any business that came our way, Tim, because we had to keep the lights on, we had to pay the bills, and we're collecting all these clients. And sometimes, they aren't the perfect client, but they may not be the client. I'm going to steal a quote from Batman, right? So they may not be the client that we want, but they're the client we need, right? So talking about Batman in Gotham City, right? You get the quote. So
Yeah.
so we're going to take that business and we're going to grow over time. And as we mature as business owners and entrepreneurs, we begin to adjust who our ideal target prospect is. Well, guess what? And when we start doing that and we become more mature, we're selling those new clients services probably at a higher rate. We're increasing our maturity level. We're really beginning to understand what our true cost of service delivery is and what our cost of support is. And we're adjusting our pricing to meet some sort of a target margin or markup over time. And because we're building our businesses with, I will argue, more mature business owners and strategic clients, it sometimes is tough to go back to those legacy customers that we first brought on because they came to us probably because we were cost effective. They wanted, they're worried about what things cost, so they're not thinking very strategically. They're always thinking about what things cost. So it's challenging to get them to move up or raise their rates in many cases. So what we do is we say, oh, you know what, we'll address that later, but we're so busy bringing on these new clients, we're onboarding them, we're selling more services, that we tend to find this gap. I would argue that our costliest clients are probably maybe some of these legacy clients, our oldest clients, where we were still trying to figure out how to price our services for profit. So I think that's one way that we get this gap of what our next client is paying versus what our costliest client is paying us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting you mentioned that, Eric, because I talk about this all the time as well. Like it's natural, right? We get into business and we work with anybody that has a heartbeat and money to pay us. And as we gain more experience, we realize that not everybody is an ideal client. It was either we didn't enjoy the process, it wasn't profitable, we didn't get good results for those people. And over time, it's so important to start to hone in on who our ideal clients are, because everyone is not a fit.
Mhm.
And I know one of the things you touch on with ideal clients, I love this concept, is you recommend creating an ideal client scorecard as kind of this first step in addressing this process. Can you unpack that a little bit for us?
Sure. So in a nutshell, what I recommend is, over time we may grow our client base, and it typically may look like three segments, right? And I call those A, B, and C. So you have your A clients. Now these are the clients that are going to pay you what you ask because they value, having you on as a strategic advisor, as a strategic business partner for them. And they are more strategic, they may be more mature, and they trust you to do things. Then you may have your B clients. So think of a pyramid of clients, right? The A clients are the very top. Think of in thirds, right? And you know how a
Yeah.
pyramid gets wider as it goes toward the base, right? So A's are your most prized clients, probably your most profitable clients, the ones that trust you the most. You may have more time invested in growing that relationship. Then your B clients make up the middle part of the pyramid. Now, these are clients that you may not yet have had enough time to grow into an A client relationship, but there may be some C customers in there as well. Again, these folks are a little bit more profitable than your your bottom part of your pyramid, which will be your C customers. And again, these may be the customers that are the most cost conscious, that are the noisiest, that give your support team fits sometimes, right? So when we understand what our A clients are, identifying, boy, these are the kind of clients that we want to work with all day, every day, then I encourage you to build a scorecard that says, well, what are the 8 or 10 traits that make up an A client? And it can't all be about, do they have budget, right?
Right.
Because, we've all had clients that have had plenty of budget that we have fired because the relationship just was untenable. Like, you can't
Yeah.
pay me enough. I mean, have you heard your staff say that? You can't pay me enough to take that call from that client,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But, these are other qualities like, are they growing? Are they strategic? Do they trust you? Do they pay your invoices on time? Yes, there is a component of getting paid, right? Are
Yeah.
they, do they have the strategic meetings that you require in order to guide them through their growth so that, you are helping them through their growth period and they don't feel like they're outgrowing or outpacing you? Um, you know, I love this one. Is it someone you would enjoy going out and having lunch with, or having a beer with, or a
Yeah.
cocktail or wine or something like that? I mean, some of my best clients, Tim, have been folks that have invited me to their holiday parties and events and barbecues and things like that. Now, that's a great client relationship. We'd be lucky to have clients that we have relationships like, and I've done the same in return, right? So
Yeah.
it kind of blurs the line between client and friend at that point. And some of my oldest clients are still friends of mine, right? So identify what that scorecard looks like. And then when you're going out qualifying for new prospects, you're mentally kind of identifying where they score
Yeah.
and on your scorecard. And be very, very critical of this when you can. I know that it takes time to get to like that ideal client every single time, but the more that you do this and the more that your business matures, the scorecard then becomes it. I mean, I know clients that I work with that if a client does not check every single box on the scorecard, then they will move on because they've gotten to that level of maturity and experience, and they're charging for that experience for clients, and so they
Yeah.
they want to make sure that when they work with a client, they're actually helping that client become more profitable, right? It's not simply by filling a gap, or doing some kind of a transactional service. But through that relationship, they're actually helping that client build and grow their business, and that client realizes that. And I think that's the most satisfying thing um, that I appreciate when I'm working with clients is moving the needle together and feeling like we're part of a team and they're not just relying us to do everything and then, have an update meeting, here or there to find fault with the things that didn't get done, right? We're in
Yeah.
this together, let's grow together. So identify what those qualities are, build a scorecard, and then here's the second part of it. Not only are you qualifying against the scorecard for new prospects, but now the second part is I score all your existing
Same
clients
clients.
against the scorecard
Yeah.
and see where you end up.
Do you see this scorecard as an extension of ideal client profiles or buyer personas, whatever you want to call them? How do you see the scorecard integrating with ideal client profiles?
I think it's a component of it, right? Because the
Got
scorecard,
it.
I think, rates more the organization and the structure and the maturity of the organization. The persona is more who is it that I'm
Yeah.
creating my targeted messaging for? Who is it that I'm trying to build interest and curiosity in with my marketing, so I can turn a marketing qualified lead into a sales qualified lead. So
Yeah.
I think the persona building is critically important for marketing success, and I think
Yeah.
the client scorecard is probably critically important for when you're qualifying for that sales opportunity, because at the end of the day we don't want to churn clients, right? So these are
Yeah.
the clients that we want to work with and we can see ourselves working with for as long as we can maintain that relationship. That's what the ideal client scorecard should represent.
I love it. And it's as you've discussed, it's a measuring stick that helps guide that decision. So it makes, is it a yes or a no, a much more
Objective.
yes. Thank
A
you.
more objective
Yes.
lens, and also it makes it easier to train your marketing and sales teams when you've developed the personas, when you've
Yeah.
developed the scorecard. So now the sales team can go out and understand what are the other qualifiers that make this a great opportunity or not so great of an opportunity, right? Again,
Yeah.
it's not simply because there's a need, and we have a solution and they have budget, it goes beyond that, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's how we started when we started building our business. Hey, do they have a need? Do we have a solution? And back then, when we're immature, it's like, what? How much budget do you have? And will we do it for that? Now it's more like, okay, well, here's the budget. Can we meet this budget? And how do they rate within these other 6 or 7 areas
Yeah.
of assessment?
So once we get done, we've got our scorecard. Now we're one of the things you just said was not only are you using it with new prospects, we're going back and looking at our existing customer base or client base. We're gonna need to fire some clients here, like and I know that you did this with your own MSP. What are a few of the things that you learned in going through this process?
Yeah, and I'll say, and I'm probably reflecting what a lot of your listeners and viewers feel. This is very awkward. It's painful to exit a client or fire a client. Probably the only thing that's more painful is letting go staff, right? Firing staff for whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
It's tough to do. And so when you're looking at your client list, you've segmented your client list into this A, B, and C kind of segmentation, and now you're scoring your clients. You're going to find out that you've got clients that are costing you money, right? They're costing you money. And this is something that, you said, well, what did I learn when we did this exercise in my MSP the first time, and why I help other clients of mine do this exercise is because we were moving it, and our business model was, we were an IT company, right? I came from the enterprise. I said, you know what, I want to start my own IT company. So, we started an IT company because, hey, we could,
Why not?
right? Anybody can start a business. How quickly you succeed, is based on a lot of different factors. So we said, look, we know technology, we know how to build solutions, we know how to deploy solutions. Let's go out and build this company. So we were selling IT services to small businesses, and we were selling projects. And back then, this was before managed IT services. Managed IT services is, today known as, we're going to offer this suite of services, everything that's contained in our statement of work or this box, for a flat fee a month. It's a subscription type of business model, but it gives clients and business owners the peace of mind knowing that their IT is being managed, it's being monitored, security is being managed, and we're patching and updating systems, and then we're providing help desk services and things like that to the end users to help that business operate. They're outsourcing that component. And so we decided early on, hey, we're going to transition. Well, it wasn't early on. We launched the IT practice in 97. This is about 2004 now. And I had built call centers and service desks in the enterprise, when I was doing that as an enterprise, CIO, CTO. And so I wanted to do the same thing for our company, but the software and the applications were simply so costly, it was kind of preventing us from scaling that. I actually wrote our first, trouble ticketing system. So when we started seeing these applications come down from vendors that were now targeting smaller IT companies, there were ticketing systems, there were monitoring, patching, and updating systems. I now had an affordable way to build our own service desk, and then we decided to create what we call flat rate IT services. We didn't even know it was called managed services yet, right?
Yeah.
So we started selling these services, and and the new clients that we brought on, we went to our A clients first. Remember, we had built this client base of probably 200 or so customers, right? We really were immature through that process, but we knew who our best clients were. That's kind of easy. And so we started this ABC strategy to say, we want all of our clients to move toward this new flat rate model, because now we can scale much more broadly. We can invest in new platforms and services because it is a subscription model. Not every client, is as noisy as some of our other clients. So you're making more margin overall if you're doing it right. So we made a lot of mistakes along the way. But one thing, once we got through the implementation and everything, and we had about 67 or 70 clients that said, yes, we trust you, we'll subscribe to your new services. All the rest of these clients, they were generating about $50 to $60,000 a month in just reactive break fix service. And I was being pressured by my team to go all in on managed services because we were kind of still dealing with the firefighting of these customers that just wanted to call us and want us to immediately respond and drive out there
Right.
and fix their problem
Yeah.
right away, and then haggle over the invoice or slow pay us or
Hmm.
or want to negotiate the price or something like that. So I finally agreed. I did not, I wasn't happy about it because revenue is revenue, at least at
Yeah.
that level of my business maturity, right?
Yeah.
But we did exit the rest of those customers, and we went and found other IT providers for them. So I wanted to make sure we took care of our clients no matter who they were. So we exited them, and a couple of things that I didn't expect him. One thing was, once they were all exited, we were actually more profitable. Can you imagine that? We were, even though we were generating 50 to 60,000 a month in total revenue because of, the invoice haggling, because of the write downs, because of the slow pays, because of the stress and all the extra time it took to support those clients, we were actually more profitable when we
Rid
exited
of
them.
them.
I'll just say
Yeah.
it nicely, right? Which surprised me. The second thing that I wasn't expecting was that as they exited, about 95% of our customer service challenges went along with them. Like, they were causing all of this extra stress and anxiety for me and my team. And remember what I told you my happy place is, and how so this was really something big. And then the third thing, I'll throw a bonus one in there that I really kind of suspected, but didn't expect to this degree, was the morale of the organization, of the technicians, shot through the roof when they saw that we were actually taking action and exiting these clients that did not fit our ideal client scorecard now. And when I stood up in front of them and said, look, we are only taking clients that that look like this now, they were so excited, and the morale shot up. Oh, and then here's the fourth one. We were now able to scale so much more broadly, right? It takes, in some cases, it may take twice as many resources to support a noisy C customer, the same size as maybe two A clients. So
Yeah.
think about that, right? So there's a lot of KPIs that will support, not engaging with unprofitable, noisy clients. And so those are four. You asked me for two. I gave you four.
Yeah,
Uh,
you did.
and hopefully that helps, because it's something that we actually lived through. And now when I work with a client, the first thing we do is look at their client list, we look at their agreements, we look at their cost of service delivery, and we identify what they should be charging, and how many of their clients are paying that and how many aren't. And then we put into place a strategy to begin increasing those rates over time. You're never going to get someone that is paying $50 an hour or less than your newest client to true up that far. But if
Yeah.
you want to save them and keep them, and some clients do, they've been with me from the beginning, so maybe incrementally we can get them there. But it may take years to get someone, and you may never get them trued up. So the advice is, start looking at your client list early, start identifying the folks that aren't trued up to your current rates, and begin a strategy to get them there as quickly as possible. In fact, I recommend raising our rates every single year, especially when the economy is tough, because the argument can be made to your clients, hey, your costs of doing business are going up, you're raising your rates, we want to continue to support you, so we're going to have a rate increase as well to keep ahead of our rising costs. This isn't a strategy to take advantage of clients, but hey, our vendor costs are going up, the cost of our tools are going up, we're adding more services and solutions to our solution stack to deliver even better service to our clients. I mean, the cost of travel, fuel, business insurance, cyber liability insurance. I mean,
Yeah.
add all these things together, and we need to stay abreast of that. I mean, the worst thing that we can do is not be around when our clients need us. So that's how I'd like everyone to look at this: as hey, we need to make sure that we are in business and we are healthy and we are growing in order to support our clients.
Erick, would you say that the four benefits, the four things that you learned when you got rid of clients that weren't a good fit anymore, would you say that those four things, I mean, they're not just relegated just to your experience? Do you see those popping up time and time again as you work with clients through this process?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that we look at, when we do an assessment of an organization, right? And I'll say this, Tim, every business has the same challenges. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter what we're doing or what we're selling,
right.
or who we're dealing with. We have the same challenges, and I call them the four P's. So there's people, process, platforms, and products and services, right? So let's take processes for one. How many clients, do you work with, Tim, that could use documented processes to tighten up their operations? And I'm not talking just in one business unit, but as an organization. When we
Yeah,
can document our processes for marketing, for sales, for service delivery, for finance, for HR, it makes us more efficient, and it allows us to onboard new folks to the organization much more quickly, and allows us to scale much more broadly. So everyone is doing the same thing the same way. Also gives your clients the same experience, right? In my business, clients tend to like to talk to their favorite technician or engineer. Well, guess what? When every technician and engineer is doing the same thing the same way, then the clients will accept support from the next available technician or engineer,
yeah,
right? It allows us to scale more broadly. So process is a big one. Platforms. We all use different platforms to operate our businesses. I don't care what business we're in. We have financial platforms, we have operational platforms, we have marketing platforms, we have sales platforms, right? We have service platforms. How well optimized and configured are these platforms? Sometimes come into clients where they're running their platforms the way they subscribe to them off the shelf. No optimization, no configuration, no integration, which
yeah,
again, now, it makes it tough to measure performance, because if they're not integrated, we're not getting the reporting that we need. We can't hold our teams accountable to performance if they're not optimized and configured properly, because maybe it takes them 2 or 3 times as long to execute a task because they're having to jump into all these different platforms. So there's a lot of optimization and automation. We're talking about automating things now, and with the advent of AI, when used for good, can be so beneficial to taking care of mundane tasks and allowing your team to do what only they can do. We don't want them, clicking, the mouse 15 times to produce an invoice or a sales proposal or to deliver service. We want to have automation do more of that, so that our most valuable asset, our staff, are able to interface more closely with our clients, to build those close relationships and to sell more and build more trust. Then we have products and services. That's where we're looking at the cost of delivery, bundling, pricing, and
yeah,
positioning those services. And I like the good, better, best way to bundle and price services, because no matter where a client is in their business, I mean, they may have more budget, so you can move them up into a higher level of service, a better tier of service, or an economic situation may impact them where you can move them down to a lower tier, but you still maintain that relationship, and you're standardizing on everything that's in those bundles of services. So again, you're increasing your efficiency and ability to scale. And then the last P is the people, and that's the toughest one. We all know, right? How do we lead our team? How do we select the right person to be on the right seat on the bus that is our business? How do we have to have a scorecard? We have to have some sort of a behavioral profile, and we want to have the folks that are wired naturally to do the tasks that are required in that position. We talked earlier today, Tim, about my 7 from 0 to 100, in being that energetic,
Right.
influencer, right, that I need to be for my clients and for my audiences when I'm doing what we're doing right now, right? Well, every one of us has different behavioral strengths and challenges. And if we, it would be, and I see this mistake done a lot where in my industry, right, we want a technician to go do sales. And those are two completely opposite behaviors, right?
Yes.
Technically focused is all attention to detail. It's all about getting things done right, and very little, like I said, my eye, right, is a 7. Like, to be a salesperson, to be an effective salesperson, you need to have a much more consistent natural wiring that is the people person. So there's the data people and there's kind of the people, right? There's
Yeah.
the process people and there's the people folks. And we need all of them in our organization to run properly. So where do we need the process and data people, and where do we need the people and folks to support the role that grows our business? And are we hiring the right folks? And then when they're hired, do we have a clear, documented work role for them? Do they understand how they're being compensated? Are we leading them properly? And I say leading instead of managing. It's different, right? Are we building other leaders? Are we giving them more opportunities for coaching? Sometimes we do a yearly annual review, and how many of us actually get them done every year? I know some of my clients that haven't done them in a couple of years, right? I recommend doing them more often, quarterly performance reviews. And when you're doing them more often, they get shorter, but you're giving them guidance along the way. How many times have we heard an employee get a performance review that they don't agree with and say something like, well, heck, if you'd have told me that, I would have adjusted, right? I didn't know
Right.
that's how you wanted it, or I didn't realize that was my responsibility. There are a lot of things wrong in that response, right? And that
Yes.
all falls on leadership, right?
Right.
So those are the 4 P's. So every business has challenges, and marketing, sales, service delivery, operations, people, clients. I mean, so it's just the way to address it is I look at an organization as, a holistic, component, not just, oh, we're going to fix sales. Well, if we fix sales, guess what happens? We're going to get a lot more opportunities to come in. And then the folks that are going to onboard those clients will say, wait, we're not ready to onboard all these clients because,
Yeah.
we're not ready. Or, marketing, you get all these great leads, and then the sales team hasn't been tuned up or trained or coached to go close those leads. So now we have this, this stop and start kind of um, business, day-to-day business, right? We start something new and then we have to stop because we found another bottleneck. Oh, then we come back and we try it again. So I would rather pull 4 or 5 levers in an organization, 15 degrees each, rather than one lever 180 degrees, because that
Right.
ripple effect can actually hurt forward momentum. We want controlled, sustainable growth. So I advise clients not to go all in on one area, but evaluate maybe the top 3 things that need to be fixed in each key business unit. There's probably more than one, but then prioritize those, and then
Right.
fix the top one in operations and marketing and sales and service, right, in HR, and then go to the next one and kind of continue. And that allows for more controlled, sustainable growth. But I think the most important one really is understanding your true cost of service delivery, and then establishing your target margin of markup that you want to
Yep.
add to that, and then going to market with that new, more profitable service, and then evaluating all of your client relationships and do the easier ones first to get them to true up, all the way down to where you get to a point where, okay, these are the customers that, don't want to pay more. They don't want to grow. They are those C customers. And now you have a decision to make on how you move forward with them. Remember, my story is my experience in
Yeah.
in getting rid of these customers that blew me away. They were actually costing us more money to keep them on board. I was just looking at the cash flow and
Yeah.
not the profit.
Profitability. When you started to touch on this too, Eric, so what, I just want to make sure there's not something we haven't missed.
Mhm.
We determine we need to raise our prices. What are some of the best ways that you found to raise pricing, and are there ways that we can kind of soften that blow for clients?
Yeah, and this is, you got to have great bedside manner,
Yeah.
and let clients know that, hey, you know, and I have a letter that I send to clients of mine that is kind of that rate increase letter that's written in a way that recognizes and appreciates them for all the years that they've been a client, and then goes on to state, and this may be true in many cases, hey, we've been, we've been successful at keeping our rates the same for this many years, and sometimes that's kind of embarrassing too.
Right.
But unfortunately, due to today's economic conditions, it's written in a very personal way. You know, we are forced to have to increase our rates. And this isn't a letter that's written as asking permission, Tim. This is a letter basically saying,
Telling.
look, this is why we're doing, and we appreciate the business. We've been able to keep costs the same for so many years, but unfortunately, you know, all of our business costs have increased, and we are now faced with having to increase our rates. So effective on your next invoice, you will see a rate increase of XYZ, and put that in place. And in my experience, and this freaks out a lot of my clients, because they're like, oh my gosh, the blowback. I mean, I'm just going to be fielding calls with, angry clients. It's the opposite of that,
Yeah.
and so the folks that actually, and then say, hey, they will reach out. It's going to be low single digit percent of your entire client list that is going to, reach out and maybe question that or argue it. And the approach there is, okay, don't give them a pass, just negotiate their rate increase a little bit less, but not too much less, right? You need to true these folks up. And if there's simply an impasse where they can't, get past, you may even send these out in batches, like send them out to your easiest clients first,
Yeah.
then send them out to the next easiest clients, all the way till you get to, and you know who your C customers are, right? Those folks that may be costing you more money than you're
Right.
making on them.
Yes.
And then when those folks come back, they may be a little bit more vocal, or may say, look, it's just not in the budget. Then now you've whittled down from the entire universe of your clients this small subset of clients that may have a problem with the price increase. And at that point, you've got to make a tough decision one way or the other.
Yeah. You gonna let them go, or what are you gonna do?
Well, remember, you've raised your rates on everyone else. So now, if you do let them go, you're not going to be hurting that bad. That's the strategy, right?
Yeah.
And then moving forward, every new client that you bring on, raise their rates a little bit. And then every year, you're going to institute a price increase, and it can't be egregious, right? I think 5% to 8%, maybe 10% in a good economy, depending upon what you're charging, doesn't create too much stir. But right now, with the macroeconomic conditions that we're going through, it's going to be challenging to across the board ask for a 10 or 15% rate increase, right? So just be mindful, but I'll take progress over perfection every time, right? So get your price, get your rates increased, get the letters out, deal with the folks that are going to want to talk to you about that, and negotiate it down a point or two, but not too much. And then just begin. Now, this is now a yearly thing where you're reviewing your clients, and you're looking at your A, B, and C. Your C's are your C customers, and every year determine, do they stay or do they go? Because that's the other discipline now of how do you become more profitable year over year. You're going to want to continue to exit your least profitable or least revenue generating customers to make room for new A clients that are paying you even more, and to allow your business to scale more broadly with the existing staff that you have, and reduce the need to continue to hire new, costly, valuable team members, right? Because it doesn't make sense to hire somebody to deliver unprofitable service because you have all these C customers. So it's a big math equation, right, Tim?
Yeah. But it sounds like we need to build this process into our businesses. And once we build it in, it's just something that we do over and over and over again.
And that's the other thing that I like to touch on is, it's hard the first time. It's a little easier the second time.
Yeah.
It's even easier. And then once it becomes a process, then there's really, it's really just an objective business process. It's just like paying your invoices, right? You're
Yeah.
going to do this. You're going to evaluate. You're doing a performance review for your staff. Now you're doing a performance review against all your clients, and you're going to determine, who gets to stay and who needs to leave in order to grow. And I made this analogy. I wrote a blog post about this, Tim. I think that might be how, we started talking. And I said,
Yes.
look, you're trying to build a championship team. Say you're a sports franchise, right? Pick your favorite sports franchise. It doesn't matter who it is, but you're building a championship team, and your clients are your players. So you want to get to the world championship every year. But guess what? Every sports team makes player trades to get them to that opportunity every year.
Yep.
So you've got to think that way, and you've got to be okay with making player trades in order to make room for new players that can get you to the championship next year or this year.
This has been awesome, Eric. Shared a ton of value here. So I really appreciate you doing that. Where can people learn more about you?
My website is ericksimpson.com. That's ERICK Simpson.com. That's the best place to get a hold of me, Tim.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, Eric. I really appreciate it. Those of you that are watching, listening, I appreciate you doing so. You want to connect with us, you can always do that over at rialtomarketing.com. You can also get a free scorecard over at revenueroadblockscorecard.com, what that tool will do is it'll allow you to discover and assess which of the 9 revenue roadblocks are slowing down your growth. Customized report. Go check it out, revenueroadblockscorecard.com. Eric, again, thank you. Till next time. Take care.
Thanks, Tim. Take care.